Hello, my name is Luis Valencia and my presentation is titled An Analysis of Contemporary Rock. What exactly is rock music? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, rock music is popular music usually played on electronically amplified instruments, and it usually has a persistent, heavily accented beat, repetition of simple phrases, and has country, folk, and blues elements. In other words, lots of elements combined to make rock. Now, according to Google, it is also a form of popular music, as we saw here, and it evolved from rock and roll and pop music during the mid-late 1960s, which is exactly what we had right here. Google also mentions that it's harsher and more self-conscious than other types of music. And we're not going to go a bit into the drug-related things. While there are many different types of rock music, we'll only go through a few artists today, such as
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you. Starts to grow when you've been fighting for it all your life. You've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly.
Before we really begin, we'll do a little activity. Let's say that the clock fell once again on Mr. Rodriguez, but this time it left him unconscious. The school is in desperate need of a substitute, and has appointed you as a temporary substitute teacher. What's something you would do now as opposed to being a student? Assume no severe repercussions. Please pause the video now to allow time to answer. Now, what if by some odd circumstance you were made principal instead? What would you do then? Pause the video again. This is what the first song we'll talk about, so let's get ready to hear it.
I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes. Listen as the crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. One minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear it was the wicked and wild wind, blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I'd become, and revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate, just a puppet on a lonely string. Oh, who would ever want to be king? I hear
Now let's analyze this. Take note that this is the first part right here, and this is the second part. Okay, so let's begin. Here it's saying, okay, I used to be a great person, right? Feel the fear in my enemy's eyes. Now the old king is dead. Long live the king, long live the new king, long live him. Oh, but then he says, oh, everything's not as it seems, right? So the second part says, so bad things start happening. Shattered windows, sound of drums. This part is exceptionally clear. People couldn't believe what I've become. What does that say about him? He's changed, right? This new power of being king, led him astray, basically. Revolutionary wait for my head on silver plates. Well, that's very intense. And in the end, he's just quoted as saying, "Who would ever want to be king?" Now, let's see what this means. Does being a different position of higher authority change your way of thinking in order to become a completely different person? I'll leave the answer up to you. Now, let's do another activity. You get a card and just simply write down any one crime or just simply a bad thing to do on it. Pause the video now to allow time for this. Now, exchange cards with your partner. On the back, write down something you could do to try to make it better. For example, say your partner did stealing. On the back of the card, you'd write giving. Now, give it back to the original person and see what they wrote. Our next song talks exactly about these issues. So let's go ahead and hear it.
Shots were fired from an SUV heading northbound east of a target arrival, but they didn't hit the target this time. They hit a kid with it, had nothing to do with it, and not travel back.
Okay, so the latter part of the song is a bit emotionally rough, so I'll just put the lyrics here. Now let's analyze it. So what you got here is basically the storyline saying, it's a drive-through, they're trying to hit a rival, but they didn't hit it this time. They hit a kid. It had nothing to do with it. Right? So that's the first part. Next, in the latter part of the song, he says, or actually his uncle is telling him, there's always a chance to rectify what you've taken. Make your peace with the world. Is that really true, though? I feel like it isn't. But let's keep going. He felt like the world was collapsing, and then he said, "Can I still get into heaven if I kill myself?" And he repeats it 2 times, and then at the end he says, "Can I ever be forgiven because I killed that kid?" Now, here are some questions to think about. Does any act really redeem another act that you made in the past? Is the saying "an eye for an eye" applicable everywhere? I'll leave you to think about it. But let's continue. Now, we'll do another activity. How far would you go to, or suffer, for someone or something that you really care about? Now, you don't have to answer this, but think about it while we go through this. And let's go ahead and hear our song.
I promise, baby, you won't ever feel a thing.
Now let's analyze the song. So right here he's saying, I've been beat up and robbed. Basically, he's been going through a lot of trouble for this one person. For the way he looks, for the things he says, basically partially for defending her perhaps. But then he says, but when trouble thing has found us, and the world fell down around us, he doesn't care whatever happens. I guess he'll protect her no matter what. Let's think about it now. I know these things happen in dramas and action movies all the time, but would you really die for another person? What if it isn't a person? What if it's like an animal? Does that make any difference? What exactly would you give your life for? Think over a bit if you wish. Now, we've reached the end of the presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it so far. So, you should go listen to some rock music and enjoy it as much as you can. Thanks for listening.